Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming a little bit early to party with me as we get ready for Across the Generations.
Hey, everybody.
Oh, and now it's streaming on YouTube. So for those of you who are not here live, the recording is happening on YouTube. I'm Renee Hobbs, and this is the Across the Generations series. In the fall semester, we started thinking about media literacy as a developmental phenomenon, a part of life in a digitally rich culture. And we started by thinking about the needs of preschoolers with Faith Rogo. And then we talked about elementary school students with Kristen Zimke. And then we explored the needs of middle school students with Troy Hicks. And then we tackled high school students and their civic media literacy needs with Adam Maskell. And after the holiday break for the spring 23 semester, we continue throughout the lifespan. Just a couple weeks ago, we had Teresa Redmond talking about media literacy for college students. And today, we have Alicia Haywood from I Speak Media Foundation talking to us about one of the topics she's most passionate about, right, Alicia? Media literacy for parents. With 253 people registered for this series, this is a powerhouse of folks, Alicia, and a lot of them know the talent and the expertise and your role in helping build the media literacy movement in the United States. So I think you're a woman who needs no introduction. Take it away, my friend.
Well, thank you for that, Renee. I appreciate that, that positive energy. Good day, friends. Good day, family. Good to be with you. Gosh. All right. So let me get a share screen going here. Let me know when you can see a PowerPoint slide.
Thumbs up.
Here we go. All right. So this is what I have in store for us. I want to start with a little backstory. All right. It's a little bit about me, my life as producer, educator, an advocate in the media literacy space. I will talk a bit about my transition into becoming a media literacy scholar, and some recent and also upcoming research. And I've got a little prompt or two for us for a little discussion. And I'm hoping that'll lead us right into some conversation about possible collaborative steps forward. Sound good? Thank you for the nods. Thank you for the thumbs up. All right. But this is where I need to begin. This is where my heart is. September 24th, 2009. This young man, Darian Albert, was 16 years old. He was an honor student at Finger High School in the south side of Chicago. And on this day, on his way home from school, he found himself caught in the middle of a gang fight. And you may have heard this story, may have seen this story, but he was beaten to death outside of this school this day. And the story, of course, gained national attention, and the video of this incident had gone viral. And I remember thinking that we had hit bottom as just humanity. We had hit rock bottom. A bystander had used a cell phone to record this murder of this baby. Not to call for help, but to record what was going on. And I remember being fixated and heartbroken for a number of reasons. But as someone who was a producer and also an educator, I was really the role media was playing in this story was something that I had become fixated on. Now, about 2 weeks later, this young man's mom was brought into the studio, into Harpo Studios. This is in Chicago, and was a guest on the Gayle King Show, along with some members of the other members of the community, young people included. And about a week and a half or so later, my colleagues and I at Harpo felt compelled to do something. We wanted to figure out how we could kind of get our arms around this community. And my colleagues and I launched Oprah Radio Voices back then. And again, I'm a producer here. I'm also an educator. And so I just felt really driven and insistent about basing what we did with these young people on media literacy and talking about the role media was really playing in their lives. So it became a media literacy program. And looking back, I now understand that launching that program, Oprah Radio Voices, was the catalyst of my connecting the dots between community outreach and media literacy education. And this was when I started talking to and hearing from parents, because their parents, this group of young people, it was their parents. That was the first group that I opened conversation with about the role media was playing in the lives of their families. And I have, of course, since immersed myself in the media literacy community. A lot of you, as Renee said, you may know me from my time in our space, working with and for the Media Literacy Now. I've been pretty active in the media literacy community for probably 15 years now. But it took a while for my work out in the community, talking to young people, talking to families. It took a while for that to become systematic. Initially, it was kind of, wherever I can get some people to open up their ears, we're going to have a conversation about media literacy, particularly with adolescents and the adults around them. But this has always been the question driving me. How can I be a bridge between the media literacy movement and education and then the communities that need it most? And I will reiterate that I'm a producer in my real life, right? Like at this point, I'm approaching 29 years in the professional media industry. I'm a producer, like I said, but I've been an educator for about 15 years, and it's been about 5 years since I've put some structure around my efforts in the community with my nonprofit, the I Speak Media Foundation. Most recently, though, I've been transitioning into this scholar identity and my doctoral journey. The only thing I'll say about that today, because that's a long conversation, is that I have just completed all of my coursework, and I am moving into qualifying exams and proposal and dissertation and all that. But this is what drives me. How can I be the bridge? So this is the kind of energy and promise that I brought into my doctoral pursuit, by the way. And for the longest time, I thought that getting media literacy education into the K-12 space in the form of curriculum was the most strategic pathway to expand my solo efforts out in the community toward more universal understanding and practice of media literacy. And so if I wasn't at a community center or a public library like I am in this picture here, or in a cafe or in somebody's living room, that's what I was pouring my energy and resources into, figuring out how to gain real traction for media literacy curriculum in schools. And this is true when it comes to even efforts in legislative action, which I also did really the most when I was in Illinois. So now if we can imagine the energy behind this picture out in the public library, I'm excited about what I'm getting back from these young people and thinking about how I can connect with their families. This is the kind of energy that I'm up against now. So now I'm in Florida, and this is the conversation happening most in the spaces I'm in, when it comes to what's going on in schools, and how can we get the students what they need, and we're really sort of moving further away from where I think the conversation needs to be in this current book banning season of whatever we want to call this that we're in, this moment in history. So I'm in a space where I am thinking a lot about our efforts in advocacy, our efforts in the scholarship, and how much of the emphasis has been on K-12 pedagogical approaches and strategies with student experiences. But I have been wondering a lot lately about the people raising these students, the humans around these young people, and what they're getting in terms of support and education. And from what I've seen, what I've found predominantly is that we've left the parents kind of on the periphery when it comes to media literacy education. And so I want to move toward more conversation with parents, and I'm searching for where and how they can be more engaged in media literacy discourse. And I'm talking well beyond conversations about mediation, but media literacy for parents, and addressing them as learners. So this is where I am now. This is the question I'm asking myself. This is the question I'm asking all of us. How are we addressing parents as media literacy learners? And what building blocks are needed for community media literacy parent education? This is where I'm headed. I would like to believe that for us, I could create some sort of grounded theoretical framework for media literacy competencies relevant to parents. But I want to start with adults who are mothering adolescents in our current media dominant culture. And I'll say more about why later. But I'm envisioning this and feeling like this is going to be a 3-phase process. And right now I'm in phase 1. And what I've done is just sort of dug into, well, who's already doing this? Who's been asking this question? Who's been doing the work? Who has been addressing parents as learners in the media literacy space? And so I had to dig into the scholarship, and I've done it systematically. I've done a systematic literature review. So I'm doing the scholarly paces of trying to figure out, what's out there, what approaches are people taking in the media literacy space to bring parents closer to us when it comes to education. I took a systematic approach with this. I used guidelines that were from the PRISMA statement, the preferred reporting items for systematic reviews and meta-analyses. And I promise you, the search to find anything was extensive. It was very methodical. I used very explicit justifications for what the kind of literature that I would include and what I would not include. I wanted things that had been published from 2007 and beyond. I wanted things that had been peer reviewed, research that was representative of firsthand efforts. And I wanted the focus to be very deliberately and clearly on media literacy and on parent education. I found 3 articles. I found 3 publications, worldwide, global search, weeks long. It's myself. I've enlisted 2 librarians. Between 3 of us, I found 3 articles. So I needed, just in order for me to even do this systematic review, I had to have more. And so I expanded the criteria, and I said, well, all right, well, if I can't really constrict it to what's been peer reviewed, can I at least just get my arms around, well, who's done some research of any sort? Who's been engaging parents? And so when I adjusted the criteria in that way, I was able to kind of barely find a dozen publications, barely. And it broke down, just sort of happened this way, that 50% of that was US based, but the other 50% represented other parts of the world. So in Ireland and the Czech Republic and Hungary, Germany, Bulgaria, Cyprus, Greece, Italy, Poland, at the EU level, and Indonesia, there's some conversation going on about media literacy education for parents. Now, 12 publications, but I note here that 6 of these territories were in one of the publications. So that's why you see them listed that way. But this is what I found from this search. In this country, in the US, I would say largely the research represents quantitative-based experiments, experimental interventions that are aimed toward behavioral changes, and they're within the realm of healthy living. So think about conversations with parents about media literacy and nutrition, or healthy eating at home, or something like that, or mental health, or in the context of even sexual health. This is what was going on here. But other parts of the world, I was intrigued by the fact that their approaches were really exploratory, qualitative, they're engaging parents in conversation, interviews and focus groups, but they're connecting with parents and treating them as sources of knowledge. And they are generating information and insight from parents that they're wanting to use to inform development of responsive media literacy educational programming and support materials for the parents. So what I also found was that the parents are in fact interested. They are interested in media literacy education for themselves, and they're willing to participate in and even help construct that kind of programming, which I think that's crucial. Also among the findings was that the efforts on both sides were leading to positive outcomes with the children. So if we think about how a lot of us have been trying to figure out what we can do in schools, how we can, or even putting students first, getting in these school-based learning spaces first to make an impact with the students. I think there's something encouraging here in the realm of parents and treating them sort of as the first informal educators of these young people. So that seemed to be apparent in the literature as well. So I have been thinking, what if this exploratory approach to the research design, what if we embrace that a little bit more here in the US? And is it possible for us to think about engaging parents as experts first? They're the experts of their families. They're the experts of what's going on with their kids in their home environments. And what if we engage them in that kind of dynamic and opened up a dialogue with them to get their insights and get get a sense of the kind of language that they're using when it comes to the media in and around their lives. So as experts first, perhaps then as advisors for us. And the kind of knowledge that we would perhaps generate from those kinds of exchanges with parents could lead us to being the kind of community that is ready to embrace parents or engage them as learners using the kinds of insights that we've gleaned from them. And then, of course, as beneficiaries of the kind of programming that we're able to create, and then as informal educators of their home environments of the same population that we've been trying to reach in the K-12 space, but then just kind of treat it as a cycle. This is what I'm imagining. Now, most of my conversations with parents over the years have been happening like this. I'm out in the streets. I'm out in the community, engaging moms, dads in dialogue like this. And so a lot of what I've heard from them over the years, it's not formally reportable data yet, but where I'm headed is in a direction where I can now shape this into more structured reporting that I can contribute to the scholarship so that we can all reference it. But again, I want to start with mothers of adolescents, and this is Palm Beach, West Palm Beach, and probably maybe a year ago. But this was my very first group of mothering adults, I should say. And this was almost 7 years ago. And we were just in conversation over lunch. And what I've realized is that over the years is that they appreciate opportunities to come together and just kind of compare notes, a space where they can talk about what they're seeing, experiencing, what they're questioning about what's going on in terms of media in their homes or with their children in media. It's been fairly effective so far. But this is also what I have been able to glean from my conversations with mothers and parents overall, or parenting adults, I should say, over the years. They're concerned about balance. And I've been pleased, really, with the fact that I've not really encountered a lot of conversations where moms or dads or people in parenting roles have been positioning media as all negative or something that they have to protect their kids from. It's not that kind of energy at all. They are recognizing that there are positives, and they're also recognizing that there are some not so positives sometimes, and they want to figure out balance. They're also very disoriented, and they are often in conversation about how what they're seeing with their kids is nothing like what they experienced when they were kids. They don't have a point of reference. And by the way, their parents can't help either. So they can't turn to the grandparents for guidance on this kind of parenting in this kind of media dominant culture, because it wasn't like this for them either. So they need help with just kind of finding their footing in this space. And again, not in the sense of how to get between media and their kids, but how they themselves can become confident with the way that confident with their habits with media. So, but they're also feeling terrified at the same time. It's just, and I feel like I probably don't even have to explain this one too much, but there's so many unknowns, and almost every day it seems like there's something new, but they are tuned into their kids' behaviors at home. And I hear a lot of conversation about the way their kids are listening or not listening after being engaged with media for a long period of time, or their focus is not what they think it could be or should be after engaging with media after a certain period of time. They're worried about just sort of this surface level engagement with life, period. They've got everything at their fingertips within a split second when it comes to information, and they're not really comfortable with that. But they're also unsettled by feeling isolated. I said a minute ago that a lot of the moms, they seem to feel just a sense of relief just in being able to come together and be in conversation. And so I hear from them that when they're at home and something comes up and they're not sure how to handle it, they're not sure where to turn. And so they're feeling isolated in these experiences. And I think creating, again, more opportunities where that doesn't have to be the case could be very well beneficial. They all want help, all of them. They all are open to help. They're all curious and want to know more about media literacy, which I appreciate. And so I just feel like the need for media literacy education for parents, it's been expressed to me, and I feel that there is a very clear need for it that exists. And before you all come at me about focusing on moms, I just wanted to highlight that, yes, I do focus on dads too. I do. But as a starting point, I am focusing on mothers. But with dads, it was the same thing, that it's informal dialogue with the dads, small gatherings. And I do intend to continue on with the dads after I get started with the moms. But when I was putting this together, I was reminded of the very first gathering I did with dads, again, probably 7 years ago. And this was in Wisconsin. So I've been kind of around. By the way, I'm in Florida, but I've been doing this in a few different states now. But I want to play a video now. I'm going to see if we can get this to work. And I'll tell you more about this in a second, but I'm going to play this video. Do you hear the audio?
Absolutely not.
All right, let me just make sure. Let me stop my share for a second. Share again, share sound. Okay, let's try again. Thumbs up.
I'm Joey Papa, and I love media. I'm a media maker, communicator, husband, and father of 5. This summer, I learned that we, all of us, should be getting ready for Media Literacy Week here in the US. Great, but what is media literacy? I had no idea. When I think of literacy, I think of books, learning how to read, right? Then I learned that media literacy is about reading the media from a critical point of view. Understanding that we're living in relationship with media, because we are. And I started to see media from a whole new perspective. And then I started thinking, when are my kids, when are any of us not plugged into some sort of media? Am I okay with my kids, with anyone's kids, spending nearly 11 hours a day with media? How much of what my kids believe to be true is coming from a voice in media, not particularly in line with my own? Whose messages are they walking around repeating? Is there any space between who they are and the media they're immersed in? What role is media playing in their lives? In our lives?
Okay. Don't want to play it again. Okay, so I wanted to share that because Joey is a friend and colleague of mine, but he was the first dad to host a Dads for Media Literacy gathering for me in his home. And it was a really rich and insightful and helpful conversation and encouraging conversation. So I just wanted to underscore that dads are not being excluded. Okay, now how do I get past our video here to get us in some conversation? One second. Okay. Find you again. All right, are we back to? Excellent.
Yep, looks good.
All right, so, and also, Renee, if you would share this link to, this is a text exchange, real world, real life text exchange that happened between myself and a dad just about a week ago. And I'm going to invite you to check that out as we begin to break out into small groups. And this is the discussion that I'm hoping that we can open up in our sessions here. 4 questions, and we have a Padlet where we can also take notes if we would like. But the first is, what community level resources currently offer media literacy education for parents where you live? And again, I'm not talking about teaching skills in mediation, but actual media literacy education for parents. That's 1. 2, how do you believe media literacy education should be adjusted to address parents as learners? 3, what is the argument against media literacy education for parents? And then 4, what can we do as a media literacy family and community to coordinate our efforts to focus on parents as media literacy learners during Media Literacy Week 2023? All right, so those are our questions. This is the Padlet where we can join one another. So you can access this via this link, which I believe Renee will drop also in the chat for us, or using this QR code. With your device. The same 4 questions I just went over are in the Padlet, and in your small group, you can take note as you move along. Okay, so how long do we have for this, Renee?
We have about 15 minutes for this, Alicia, and I'm going to just check for comprehension.
Okay.
In the chat, you have given us 4 questions that our group can discuss. And I've just made a screenshot. I've just took a picture of that
QR
code. And now I'm here. I'm on the Padlet wall where if we want in our group, we can make some notes about ideas that emerge.
Exactly.
And let me just add that you're going to be in a group with 5 or 6 people.
Yes.
One of you should probably take the role of moderator, and make sure that everybody introduces themselves, because this is a networking opportunity, and make sure that everybody has a chance to speak. Give me a thumbs up, you guys, if you understand the rules for playing in the Media Education Lab breakout rooms. You all do. And this is the funnest part of what we do together. So let's see here. I think the rooms are ready to go. Have a great conversation. We'll see you back in the main room in about 15 minutes.
Awesome. Thanks, Renee.
People are moving into their breakout rooms. They're clicking on that button that says join the breakout room. There's some really amazing people in this session today. So this is going to be amazing. And the breakout synthesis should be amazing too. Anybody needs help getting into a breakout room, I'm here to help you. April,
Yes.
you need some help?
I need help.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. Liz, you need help? Here you go.
Yes,
Oh, Liz,
please.
you are not assigned. That's why. Okay. I'm putting you in room 7. And let's see now. April, where are you? I'm looking for you. I know you're on this list. Oh, there you are. I'm going to put you in room 9. So click on the link there. You should see that link to room 9. Anybody else need a invite to get to a room? Just let me know. Parazat, I'm going to move you into room 2. And I'm going to see what's going on in these rooms. We've got David and Scott, but neither one is speaking. That's not good. Let's see here. How about Linda? Move to room 5. Move to room 5. Okay. Anybody want to stay in the main room and talk? Just unmute your microphone and let's have a conversation. Hey, David. I'm going to move you into a breakout room because we're having an amazing conversation right now. Hope that's okay. I'm moving you to room 2. So just click on that link and you'll be joining room 2. We're having a great discussion. Caroline, Melinda, Parazat, let me know if you want me to move you to a different room, or if you want to talk in this room, that's cool too. All right, we're coming back. I love this part of a Zoom meeting. Yes, I do. My favorite part of a Zoom meeting is when everybody comes back like that. Woo! All right. I suspect that you had a good conversation, but probably you didn't have enough time because there was a lot to tackle with those big questions that you gave us, Alicia. But what we're going to do is we're going to open the microphone and invite one person from each group to give us a top line sentence.
How many groups did we have, Renee? How many?
We had 9 groups.
Nice.
So Jeffrey, I'm cold calling you, buddy. My friend, Jeffrey, I know something happened interesting in your room. Tell me.
Well, the easiest thing for me to talk about is what I said, which was basically, I think that there's some documentaries out there like The Social Dilemma, and I mentioned The Brainwashing of My Dad, which anyone can access and watch those things. Although, as we agreed in our discussion, they might be polarizing for some people.
Great point. So viewing and discussion groups to talk about documentaries about media. Brilliant. Okay, I'm going to do another cold call, but then again, you can also wiggle your finger or raise your hand. Joyce, what happened in your room, my friend? What'd you guys talk about? What was the top line, 1 sentence or 2?
Well, I was delighted to meet 2 new colleagues. We were talking about the potential for working with PTA and PTO meetings, and my 2 colleagues had activities and knowledge of what local PBS stations are doing. Camilla, I hope I said her name right, described Edu Leaders RI, a group of diverse teachers who are getting together to present monthly programming. And Ed shared that this is the beginning of the conversation. I think that Alicia alluded to the fact there isn't a great body of literature yet. This particular meeting is a way to introduce the discussion and on how we can engage parents and scale these efforts.
Great observation. Hey, Regina, what was a top line idea that came up in your little discussion group?
I mean, we have so many topics discussed, but I thought it was interesting that when parents are having misinformation in their head, and whenever we try to guide them to the correct way, but there's a lot of like tension between the parents and the educator, and also whenever they have misinformation, they're gonna actually share that with their children, right? So, like, what will be the what is the best way that we can deal with those parents when it comes to misinformation? I think that's something we need to have like a long discussions about it. And then another one is, especially in my area, I'm living in Miami, southern Florida, and there are a lot of Hispanic families, like people who don't speak in English. So in those cases, we need to provide some programs in Spanish and other different languages. And we need to also think about the culture, like immigrant families, like how are we going to approach to those families like that? So.
We need to do a media education webinar on that topic. Alicia, I'm going to give you the last word, but I'm going to cold call on William Yang. William, what was an idea that came out of your small group discussion, my friend?
Well, I mean, thank you. I mean, it was such a great discussion, and it was about how we need to do more in the K-12 schools to really educate parents and not, as Alicia said, mediate or pontificate or, really, really bring them into the discussion. And we had some really great ideas. I think right now PTAs are really excited about this topic. They, beyond, they see the effect it has on their children. They also are really looking at the social emotional effects of this kind of work and how that, that angle is something that really appeals to them. So we're looking forward to taking some of this and implementing in our districts.
I'm just feeling like the list that we're building here in this 5 minutes is absolutely amazing. So the floor is open. What happened? What topic have we not yet synthesized in our little bit of time before we give Alicia the last word?
I think the thing that came up in our group, we did have a little trouble staying on track with the questions, but the one thing that came up, at least for me, and I think for at least one other member, was the fact that we can't compartmentalize into teaching parents and then teaching kids, that we have to, both groups have to be really, really, really self-reflective. Self-reflection was huge on how we use the media and how it makes us think, believe, feel, and that it has to be, it can't be compartmentalized, that you can't do one and then the other. We're moving so fast with media that both groups need to be doing it either together or separate at the same time.
Great insight there. I'm going to cold call on someone unless you wiggle your finger and start talking. There's some ideas that came up. What were they?
Could I maybe say a word?
Please.
I didn't have time to voice it in our group, but I think what was missing is that a modern communicator should be competent at every level of communication, or oral, written, print, TV, electric, and digital. And if we do not inculcate literacy in the oral, written, print, and TV, then we shouldn't be even talking about literacy in digital media, because that print base will help us establish the other levels of literacy.
Wow, what a great insight. Thank you for sharing. Alicia, you get the last word, my friend. What do you want to leave us with as we head at the conclusion of this program?
Let's see. I really appreciate the energy in the room today and the response, the receptiveness to this idea of treating parents as learners in our space in the media literacy community. But I want to just kind of underscore the concept of approaching them also as experts, right? Opening up a dialogue with parents. The word tension came up a minute ago between the idea of tension between parents and educators. It doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't. And I have found that and listen, I'm not even a parent, right? So when I'm in the room with them trying to talk about what they need, I am upfront and I say, I want to learn from you what's really going on so that I can check the files of resources that I know are out there and then bring them to you. So I feel like that approach, just recognize that they are absolutely the experts who've got some things to say about what's going on with media in their homes, with their children, in their families, in their lives. And we need to be listening. We need to be open to listening to what they have to share with us. And we also have to be open to modifying our approaches. It's not all about reading a peer-reviewed article to a parent group. It's not that. It's really about what kind of language, what kind of insights are they bringing up in the room, and then reflecting with them on those topics, but infusing what we know so we can help them in the process. And last thing, I am, by the way, building curriculum that is for the adolescents for high school, but I'm at the same time building a community curriculum for the parents to complement it. So I'm on it, but I always say I cannot do this work fast enough, and I absolutely cannot do it alone. So thank you all for the interest and energy, and I look forward to continuing conversations anytime.
Oh, beautiful. Let's give Alicia Haywood a big round of applause. Thank you for inspiring us with this great topic. And guess what, you guys? We are moving through the developmental lifespan really in a really cool way. Please join us next week, February 7th, where David Cooper Moore is going to talk about teaching digital literacy to adult learners in public library spaces. And then the week after that, Valentine's Day, I'm going to talk about media literacy for mid-career folks. I'm going to share my story of teaching media literacy to police officers in Austin, Texas, right? Average age, 40 years old, mid-career police officers. How do they encounter media literacy and what sense do they make of it? All right, I'm Renee Hobbs. Thanks for joining. We're really glad you're part of the Media Education Lab community. Bye now.
Bye, Renee. Thanks so much for this.